Me too. Welcome to Two Queens and Crystal Things, the podcast where we were on some manifest your life.
I mean, come on, it's time.
Shift your mind.
Please.
And raise the consciousness type of shit.
The collective consciousness.
The collective consciousness. The universal consciousness. I'm Christie.
And I am Mia. And you can consider us your spiritual girlfriends for the next hour.
Hey, Queens.
How y'all doing? And kings.
And kings.
Yeah,
Oh,
kings
yes.
and kings.
Yes, we do have some kings out there.
Kings. So last week, you guys, we talked about relationships, a hot topic.
Oof.
We went on for a little while, too.
We
because
did.
It's just a hottie topic.
Yes.
Okay. So, we talked about when enough is enough. And, you know, when you're dealing with toxic relationships, you're dealing with trauma from relationships, and just when enough is enough. So, of course, this doesn't just apply to romantic relationships, you guys. But be honest with yourself, okay? Remember that relationships are a mirror of who you are, and be sure to take time to heal. Forgiveness is key. Forgiveness of yourself and allows you to forgive other people. But know that you are deserving of the best relationship that you could ever imagine. But first, you have to make sure you are having the best relationship with yourself. But we got down and dirty into it. There was a little bit of a timely topic because of what's happening on social media with this certain relationship expert. But he's had his time. We're over that. So guys, let's deal with ourselves, okay? So Christy, what are we talking about today?
Today, and I'm sorry I'm smacking, I'm not drinking wine, but this green drink is really good. But in today's episode, we are talking about dealing with conflict. And whether we like it or not, conflict is just, it's a part of life, something that we all have to contend with at some point. And so I think it's important for us to know how to deal with conflict in a way that's going to be fruitful for us. And again, as you're going through your spiritual journey, I know that the way that we deal with shit, it changes, but we're still human.
Yes.
So sometimes we might revert back, revert back.
I told you that muscle memory is but it would kick in. I'm like, ooh.
I know.
Okay,
it's like, oops.
Hold on. Ooh, bring it back.
Right. But I will admit, when I was younger, I really shied away from conflict. I was afraid of it, just because my parents always taught me to just turn the other cheek and walk away. But I learned in my adult years that conflict comes about when communication is broken, or there's a lack of communication, or there's just not clarity in communication. Communication is huge for me. Mercury is all up in my natal chart. So when conflicts arise, I do like to deal with them like head on. Like, just be completely honest with me. I'm a bitch. Okay. I suck. Okay. Let's move forward. Are we good? All right.
Okay. I'm like, okay, see, all right. Look, I'm like, okay. Look,
I don't like to, it's like, let's just put it out on the table. We are old enough to be, at least I feel like we're old enough and mature enough to deal with shit. But anyway, I also think that when people think, oh, she's spiritual or she's on this journey, she's going to turn the other cheek. She's all peace, love, the ambassador of rainbows. But I mean, honestly, just because a person is spiritual, like you said, that muscle memory.
But that what Jill Scott said this. I remember it was either one of her concerts or something. Maybe it was one of her songs. She said, when she was talking about getting in the songs, getting in the way, and she talked about, I don't know why she was singing at a concert. She's like, I don't know why people think just because, I know who I am and I'm connected to myself.
Yep.
That you gotta think about it. When you connected to yourself, you are connected to yourself.
Yeah.
So when you feel like someone's trying to take some of that self away from you, you are going to necessarily defend it. But I would say conflict, dealing with conflict.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're using the word conflict, kind of as an overarching, but I look at conflict like a disagreement. Or when basically you have two opposing sides.
Yeah.
And, I think it hits a little bit harder when you're dealing with conflict in relationships, whether that's friendships, parental, definitely romantic, in your workplace, and how do you deal with it and get past it, go through it to move forward. And sometimes everything is not, look, I'm like, everything isn't necessarily conflict worthy.
Right.
So we're having a disagreement. And does that necessarily mean there's a conflict? Do you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
no. I think so. I feel like conflict like shatters, and I feel like disagreements is just like they're the line continues. There, it's not broken, but it's just you guys are kind of on two separate paths. But I feel like when there's conflict, there is friction.
So okay, think of it. It, for some reason, when I think of conflict, I think of war.
Yeah.
But that's just
Yeah.
but think about it. Parents have conflicts with their children all the time. I have
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, but as in that type of relationship, we deal with it differently. Hopefully,
Yeah.
and sometimes a disagreement doesn't necessarily mean a conflict is necessary.
I agree. Yeah, like you guys can go on. It's like, no, I don't agree with that. Yeah, I don't agree with that. Okay.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And everything doesn't require a reaction.
No.
Now, let's talk about when you do react and how can you talk about when you don't, when to react and when not to react.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, think of it this way. I don't feel it at this stage in my life. I don't feel it necessary to defend myself when somebody says something stupid that I either didn't do or said or something. But when I was younger, I feel like, what? I mean,
how dare you?
Yeah. You know what I mean? Now I'm just like, okay, because I
enjoy those thoughts.
I mean, that's believe what you want to believe because that's you get to a point you're like, okay, I see that that's truly what you choose to believe.
Yeah.
And how stupid do I look sitting up here trying to convince you
right.
of something about me?
Yes. Like I feel, and that's the thing. Like I feel like, I honestly feel like you just approach things differently. Like that's dumb. Next.
I'm over it. Like, okay. But I think that, it's just everything doesn't necessarily deserve your reaction.
No, it doesn't.
Mm-mm. But
I'm all out of shits.
I mean, just everything doesn't.
That's what I meant. I'm all out of fucks.
But
no more.
There are times when it has to be worked through, and there are a couple of different times. So, Chrissy, when you get to the point, you're like, okay, this deserves my attention. That's another thing. Let's talk about that. What deserves your attention? Remember, guys, we talk about everything is energy. No matter if you're putting out good energy or I'm air quoting bad energy or lower vibrational energy, it's all energy that you are putting out.
Yep.
So what deserves your energy? And then once you get upset with somebody and you go in, I know for a fact, it's like everything goes there. It's not like a piece of me goes like, oh, okay, I'm going to go deal with this conflict. It's like, no, the energy has shifted in the room. The vibration is different. It's a conflict.
Yeah. So how do I know
that it deserves your attention?
Yeah, because it's funny because we just talked about a situation where this person didn't deserve my attention, and really I was just like, okay, well I'm about to go into brunch. Okay, talk to you later. Bye. Have a good day. Because I just don't have I literally don't have it to give. But I think if it's a relationship that I respect, a relationship where I care about that person or love them, or it's a relationship where I'm with them, like I'm around them often, then for me it's worth my energy.
I
or
agree.
Family depends.
Well, it depends. Look, honestly, I agree. I think that I don't think everything deserves my energy, my time, or is worthy of a conflict to me. Because I truly believe when you give somebody energy of hate, that's why I don't hate anybody, because I refuse to give you that much of my energy. I cannot rock with you. I don't flex with you, but I don't hate you. But
did you guys get that?
I mean, seriously. But I think going through the conflict is, simply put, when it's worth you keeping the relationship, or for it. And sometimes, look, it can be as simple as workplace. Like, I need to deal with this person, so let me just go ahead and deal with whatever it is because this is how I pay for my life. So I cannot escape this. But I think that when it's important enough to address it, even if you may not even think there's a conflict. You're like, what are we even talking about? Because I'm not mad,
right.
But they're mad.
Yeah,
I think it's worth even.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you care about,
yeah, you want to hear people out,
right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not gonna let you bring me to another place.
Yeah.
But take me into another energy space if I'm not ready for that. But it's.
I gotta remember that, so we're gonna talk about that later, I think.
So when you finally decide, okay, it's time. We're going to have this disagreement, verbally or however it is that you're going to have this conflict. Sexual conflict could be kind of quite interesting. Working it out that way. Actually, that's how I ended up staying with somebody for too long, working out conflicts. I'm like, that's another story.
Well, and I'm sure a lot of people do that, and that's not really resolving. Right?
It feels good though.
I mean, in the moment, but yeah,
but you're right.
But in the moment, yeah.
But
long term,
basically, all you're doing is kind of putting it to the side.
Yeah, you're just putting a Band-Aid on it.
You know what? But again, so remember we talked about duality. That shows that they both can live in you. I can really be upset with you, but still have some level of love for you. You know what? I would say this has only happened to me once. I kind of like if for me, if I cut it off, it's gone. Like,
yeah.
I can't, you know what I mean? Like, okay.
If I'm mad at you, I can't be intimate with you. Nope.
I would say that's some very passionate. I don't suggest it, but it's.
I mean,
good.
Well, I mean, to me, I feel like that's kind of makeup sex too.
It is. No, true. That is true.
I've done that.
I mean, I think that's the same type of thing. But here's the thing. The difference is makeup sex now in this age, to me, is we resolved whatever it was.
Let's go make up.
Now let's go make up. As opposed to we're in the middle of something. Let's go have sex.
So I haven't done that.
We don't have to deal with that. And then, no, seriously, it's. You literally will just, okay, we're good. But you do that too many times in a relationship. One day, all these conflicts and all these disagreements bubble to the pot.
Tumbling out.
And then there's no amount of sex that can fix it. Now it's like, oh, we fight. Like, forget you. I'm done.
Give me my Vaseline. Yeah, I can't have sex with you if I'm mad at you like that.
Okay, so when you, how do you approach somebody, especially when you know it's going to be a little contentious? There's some disagreements. This is not going to be one of my easiest times or my easiest conversations.
I just tell them, like, can we talk? And so for me, I don't like to. I mean, I prefer in person if possible. I don't like when people try to have arguments or like serious conversations over text.
I can't.
Because I feel like
in the middle of it, I just call because I'm like, I can't. There's too much typing. And...
It's like, let's just be respectful of each other's time and of each other. So I think either in person or over the phone. Mm-hmm. But I usually just like, let's have a talk. And then I don't like to ignore the elephant in the room. So it's just like, okay, well, you know what, we're here. So I just go into it. Like there was a woman I was friends with, things got weird. I mean, I'm telling you, these women. Things got weird. Things got weird, and we just stopped talking. I wouldn't answer her phone calls. I wouldn't respond to her. I think I stopped following her because I was just like, I'm done. And as I was moving, she came to help me, and she came over, and I was like, oh, let's talk.
Well, think about it. For her to come over while, you know what I mean, during that time, that was her extending an olive branch. Like, she clearly was open to it.
Because she was like, well, I don't understand what happened. And I was like, you don't?
Okay.
Well, let's talk.
Ooh, okay. I'm so glad you said that. Here's it. How do you resolving a conflict when you guys are in disagreement about what the conflict is about? Because you got to think about perspective. Yeah. So if we're having a conflict and I'm thinking it's about this, and you're like, actually, no, it's about this. You're like, wait, hold on. Now it's another conflict on top of the conflict because now we conflicted about what the conflict is about.
So like that's with us, difficult. I mean, with us, it happened so long ago, and I'm also in a different space. So I was just like, that was a while ago. Things are different. I'm in a better space. You're in a better space. Don't get it twisted because I'm good being by myself, so I can cut things off. But if it is something that's like fresh and two people are on the two different pages, yeah, there's going to be conflict because communication hasn't happened.
Well, okay, so this is going to sound crazy. I'm really not good at starting a conflict. I'm not good at approach. I'm not this. It hasn't. It's not a strong suit for me. Like seriously, I'm not. It's I just. What elephant? What you talking about? I mean, it could be sitting.
And I think that's like, and I think that's so silly. It's like, so we're just gonna sit here and we're just gonna pretend that there's not a problem.
But and again, not necessarily making an excuse. I'm a work in progress.
We all are.
I don't. When it's somebody that I care about, I genuinely don't know how to do it because I'm a 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And so I'm even right now as I'm kind of stuttering, it's difficult, especially when, and then you jump in people's heads, especially if you know them. You're like, okay, if I say this, they're gonna respond like this, and if I say this, they're gonna respond like this. So then once I go through all of, if I say this and they're gonna respond,
just
like
say
this,
it.
And by the time I go through all that, it's always like, you know what, just forget it. And then
that
doesn't work for me though.
Right.
I'm not. That's not.
So
a
just
good thing
say
at all.
it. Just get it off. See, I'm the type of person. It's like, don't slowly rip the Band-Aid off. Just rip it off.
See, I'm either rip or nothing.
I rip.
I can't peel it back.
No, just rip it off. Like I don't like the peel back. Just you tell me how it is.
But this is what ends up happening with me. I let it go until I don't. And
but that's
then
not
by the
good.
time it's not. It's really not. It's no. Look, I'm like, baby, it's not. It's the it's so what I've started to do now, because I'm in, a different place, is especially when it's people that it's just knowing how I am and knowing how is this worth me potentially losing this relationship, this friendship, this, whatever. If it is, now see, and that's where my stall comes in. If it's worth it to me, I don't know how to do it. If it's not worth it to me, oh, baby, you can have all this heat. You want the smoke, the heat, and the fire, because I'm bringing the shits. Like, get your...
and the gasoline.
All of that. But if it's somebody that's like, it's worth it to me, and, it may shift or change our relationship, but I don't want to necessarily lose this or burn or set this thing on fire. It's more difficult for me to approach.
So why not tell them? Like, I feel like if someone approached me and was like, you know what, I really don't want this to mess up our friendship, but I'm really feeling this way. And again, and maybe this is from like my psychology training like years and years ago, but I feel like it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
No, I agree 110%. And here's the other thing, it's like, I know that I am a sensitive person, so I'm gonna either go from like, I go from crying to fighting.
And she's sensitive.
I was like,
I'm sensitive. I'm about to beat your ass right now. Why are you crying? Because I'm about to kill you.
No, genuinely.
I know.
No, I have literally been in situations where I felt like the heat coming over
me. Why are you crying?
Because I'm like, I'm literally about to pick something up and smash your head open. And I'm like, I don't want to be like that until I can't.
The whole Keisha is coming out.
But I think but when I would say again, knowing that I don't think that's the best way to approach it. Yeah. And honestly, there's probably 2 people right now in my life that I need to be like, okay, let's sit down and have a conversation. But I respect the relationship. I don't want to necessarily lose the relationship. So it's almost like I'm okay with being in a holding pattern. Yeah. Just like, okay, things are changing, we're shifting, we're growing, but I don't necessarily want, because remember, I see conflict as war. And in a war, there's a winner and a loser. I don't want to win and lose with my friends. I don't want to win and lose in my relationship. Because I'm like, how can we do this without it be a winner or a loser?
Right.
That stops me. Like,
and I feel like
stop.
It's perspective, because I look at conflict and I see resolution.
Oh.
So I don't look at like, oh, we're at odds, we're at war. I'm like, no, conflict, that means that this is an opportunity for us to resolve whatever shit needs to be resolved. So let's do this. And I think that's why I'm like, okay, what do we need to talk about? Like, let's get this out. Okay, what is the problem? What did I do? What didn't I do? What did I say? So I don't look at it like, oh, it's going to mess things up. I'm like, no, this is a solution to whatever the hell is going on that no one wanted to talk about.
So, okay, that's interesting. I mean, you give me something because I really look at it as conflict is war, and how and until I get to a place where it's not I have to in my head it's not a conflict. It's just like this is a disagreement. And again, it's really only if I care about people.
Right.
Like I don't want you to lose and me to win, so we can be over this conflict, or for vice versa. I'd be like, can we come to and sometimes the situations or whatever the cause of conflict are so personal. Like we just said this before, 3 things that will cause people that have started for real wars, burn down houses, could cause a lot of conflict. Money, spiritual / religious things, and affairs of the heart.
Yep.
And so when any of those are involved, I think there's something, there's an opportunity to tread lightly. But how do you win in that? Or, how do both of you win in that?
I mean, I don't see it as like a winner and a loser. I just see like where can we meet? Like,
but the win to me is us still being okay. And so I would not.
So then everyone's both winning.
Right. But again, your people. But if I know that if I have this conflict with you right now, there's a possibility that neither one of us is winning. And then, of course, as much as I try to ignore, not be ego driven, when somebody's, saying some real foul
I will. I'm
it kicks in. And then
let's talk about your 6 tap.
Right. But when you're dealing with people that you love.
And your 5-minute sex. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's what we do. So that's what. Let's talk about that, bro. What you know? But when you're dealing with somebody you love, I know I can cut. Like I know I can cut.
Oh, I can too, and I remember.
And I don't want to.
I remember everything. I remember everything.
And I don't want to do. And then if I'm being honest, I never feel good after. Once I'm there, once I allow, I was gonna say once somebody gets me there, but I'm gonna take accountability for my own shit. Once I allow myself to go there while I'm in it, girl, it's a good.
But let's talk about that because I
don't feel good.
Because I think a lot of people are like, oh well, you made me, or he made me, or she made me. No, you allow.
That's true. Like
you relinquished your power.
My thing is, and I'm all about stand in your shit. Like, yeah, I allow. I said, you said this, and it triggered me, and I decided today this is the reaction I'm going to give. Now,
because I got time today.
Girl, that's one of my favorites.
I got time.
Whenever I start something with when I can feel it coming, and I'm like, I'll tell you what, just leave.
I tell you what,
look, I got time. Or I'm like, okay, I got time to say, let's do this. I have chosen which side of this aisle I'm walking on. And I'm like, come on. Look,
sometimes we have our days. Sometimes we have our days. But I will say that the way that I react is different now that I'm, on this spiritual journey. It's more intentional. It's more thoughtful. It's more like I think about like, okay, well, if I'm putting my energy to meet this person's energy who is vibrating at a lower level, then I'm bringing my energy down too. And it's like, you're not worth it.
That's the part.
You're not worth it. So
I'm
good.
When you're dealing with people that aren't worth it, it's so much easier for you to be like,
sorry, I'm going into brunch. Can you call me back?
Right. It's like you're not worth it to me. Easy stuff. I'm driving, somebody cuts me off, they cursing and yelling, like, okay, like I don't even know you. You are not worth
I hope that made you feel good.
Ruining my day, chasing you down the street, pulling up my like nobody's worth all that.
And some people do.
But people do that. And so that's what I'm saying, just be in your
even on social media, like people just have to comment. It's like if you don't like it, you can just keep scrolling.
What? That's when you see
this is my page.
People talk about talk about people like why they go in on people's choices and decisions, and they take it so personally. And I never understood that.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't even, like, whether or not they believe that, you know, they should allow their children to scream at them. We talked about this meme where this little girl,
blackout.
The hell off mama. And a lot of our mommies did some videos showing how they would react. And people, you know, they really do have a reaction to, you know, to how people parent and things like that. But it's like, here's the thing. If you don't believe in spanking your children or disciplining your children, or you think that your children needs to get knocked the hell out, that does not determine how, you know, so someone else believes opposite of you, that doesn't change how you run your household, how you are as a parent. So the fact that you give that much energy to somebody else, I mean, arguing, how dare you? What?
Yeah,
what does that have to do with you?
I have a friend who's a stay-at-home mom. I don't know if she listens. She might know who it is. But, you know, she's a stay-at-home mom, and she homeschools her kids. And she had a post of, like, why you shouldn't spank your kids. You know, she's a black woman. She doesn't spank.
Good for her.
And she opened it, you know, she opened up the discussion to just hear people's opinions. And I said, well, I am a proponent. I discipline my kids. I spank if necessary. Oh, well, you know, you're the parent and the kids are looking at you as, you know, trusting, and they're not going to be able to trust you. And I said, I look at it this way. It's how you have to teach them. And it's like your child sees a fire. Don't touch the fire. It's going to burn you. It's going to hurt. Don't touch the fire. Oh, but you want to touch the fire. Okay, well, you're going to learn not to touch the fire once you get burned. And so for me, when I think about disciplining my kids, for me, it was, I mean, you don't spank every day. And I don't spank if I'm angry. You know, like, it's just common sense. Like, you don't spank when you're angry.
No.
You know?
So I have flip-flopped on the spanking thing recently.
Yeah.
So, but I have always been a proponent of, though, like the stove thing. It's like, don't do that. Don't do that. And you're going to do it anyway? I'm not going to stop you. Go ahead. Burn your damn stuff. Because that's the only way that you're going to learn. I bet you won't touch it again.
Yep.
Like, my mother used to laugh at me because, like, Jade, when she was younger, like, Jade, I wouldn't go down those steps if I were you. That's going to hurt. You know what I mean? And Jade, stop. I'm not about to, you know, especially if I know it's not going to kill her or anything like that. Go ahead, bump your head.
Because
does that hurt?
Right.
And then
because the world is the same
that
way.
Hurt, you crying? Did mommy tell you that was going to hurt?
You didn't listen.
Yes, you didn't listen. Maybe next time you won't listen to me because I got your back, babe.
Right. And that's how the world is.
We're gonna, you know, clean up the blood. You're gonna be okay, but you're not gonna do that again. But the spanking thing, with conflict with your kids, I definitely am a believe. I definitely used to believe, like, you know, that's how you discipline your children. As of lately, like, honestly, I had this conversation with Jade not too long ago, and I said, you know what, Jade, I have changed my mind about what I think about spanking, because I started thinking of it this way, especially when it's just you and your child, especially like a single mom, you know, when it's just you and a daughter. I thought to myself, my daughter looks at me and she loves me, and she knows that I love the hell out of her. I don't want to be putting in her head that when somebody loves you, they hit you.
That's a good point.
And that just came, I was like, okay.
That's a good point.
So I had that conversation with you. I was like, so you're not getting any spankings, and she doesn't really do anything, you know what I mean? But I definitely have threatened her, like, you know, I'm gonna knock you the fuck out. Stop playing with me. But now I'm like, you know what? I'm not, and you know what I mean? That's not going to be the first, my first reaction. It's just like, you know what? Now we have it's just, I don't want her to go into a relationship.
No, that makes complete sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, well.
That makes sense.
I remember when my mom spanked me, she said that, you know, I'm doing this because I love you. And I kind of
I feel like I spanked when they were little.
Yeah, and I mean, but I made a promise to my daughter, because I understand that the mom that she has today is not the mom that she had at 2 or 3. And it's always love, but I'm growing. Yeah. And so as we expect our children to mature and grow, and why do we expect ourselves to stay exactly? And so I made a promise to her, like, hey, as I grow in shifts and I feel like I need to pull you in on something, like, hey, a little something different here. Like, even with the church thing, I had to sit down and have a conversation, because Jay was like, Mommy, I want to go to church. I'm like, okay, you can go. You know what I mean? And I have a conversation with her.
Right.
I want to bring her along. Mm-hmm. So that's why we have to have the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like now I've always been a communicator with my kids. Like, this is, these are the choices you have. Mm-hmm. You make this choice. This is the consequence. You make this choice. This is the consequence. And I've been told, like, you give your kids too many choices. And I said, well, because they have choices in life. And like I look at myself trying to create a mini world in the house. Like, you do something, there is a consequence to what you do.
Yes, absolutely.
Because when you go out in the real world, like, mommy can't rescue you all the time. So at some point, but yes, I have had conflicts. And there have been times where I admit I am not proud of things that I've done, and I've talked to my kids about it.
Yeah. No, I've
and be open about that.
Yes, I've definitely. That's.
Man, I used to body slam my son.
I honestly, but I definitely believed in discipline like that. Now, but I'm not like, oh, we're just going to sit up here and talk about it. No, because and I said to Jade, I said, well, unfortunately for you, because the way it was brought up is because she was watching some TikTok video. I was like, when black mamas do this, and it was about something about spanking. I said, you know what? Actually, I'm glad you brought it up. Let's sit down and have this talk. So we talked about it. Yeah. But I told her, but unfortunately for you, you probably would prefer for me to spank you because your mama is very creative. Because now, discipline is going to be like,
yeah, I mean,
I've
done things like go in a chair or like hold your hands out. I mean, all that stuff.
Girl, but Jay's dad, with the boys, what did he? He had the oh my goodness, he had them sitting in the horse stance, which is it's kung fu stance, like for hours.
And then just shaking.
Yes. I mean, tears come. And the oldest baby, he would not break. And I was like, I like that about him. He's like, I would not. You're not about to have me over.
You won't catch me slipping.
You're not going to catch me breaking. And it was just, but now I'm like, oh, that just means now I just get to be a little bit more creative. Because sometimes the easy thing to do is spank. But I'm definitely not one of these parents that's just like, okay, well, we're just going to have a talk about it.
Oh, yeah, I'm
no,
not like, no.
We're going to talk about it, but we're going to figure this out today.
Because unfortunately,
right now,
the real world
is not going to
they're not going to sit and talk to
you about it.
It's like, oh, okay.
And especially when you're a black parent and you are raising children, of course it is our hope that they are walking into a different world than we were. But at the end of the day, that's the world that we were raised in and walked in. So we prepare them for that.
Yep.
But so what happens when you when someone is trying to get you there? Like, come on, I think they want to get you in a conflict and you don't engage.
I've been there. I mean, I've been on both sides. Sometimes I'm engaged. And then sometimes I'm just like, I just don't want to.
So and
it does piss them off.
Oh, it pisses. Once I figured out it pisses people off more, I think I was like, especially in a relationship where you're, it's a psychological warfare. You're in the middle of, like, oh, this is what we doing. I think, I would say that when I was younger, I would struggle with not reacting because I would make me feel weak. So, back in the day, somebody say something about your mama. It was like
you always had to come back.
You had to,
like you just had to have.
Like, oh, you a punk.
Your mama's a punk.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? And those were like the magic words, swinging. As soon as somebody say something about your mama, it's on it. But
see, I was raised to always walk away, and I will say that in my high school years, I felt weak. I felt defeated because I didn't
address it.
I didn't address it.
Really? So this is honestly what happened to me. I don't know. I do not remember whether or not. I think my parents would just like, think it through and, what you won't have to deal with the consequences of your actions.
My parents were, you're a lady. No, ladies don't do that. We don't teach you to fight.
Sharon was like, if it calls, you do what you gotta do, but no, it's consequences for your actions. So you need to think about that. I would say anytime that and like I said earlier, anytime, especially when I was younger, where I couldn't react or I didn't, it would tear. Like I would literally start crying because I'm like, I I want to do something really, really, really
well, and
bad.
don't get me wrong, because like when I was dealing, because I went through this situation, bullying in high school over some dude.
Always.
And, you know, my parents were like, we've just raised you better than that. Just, you know, do this, do this, do this. I mean, it was like a whole laundry list of things that I'm supposed to do to prove that I'm better and bigger and more mature. And I did everything, and it didn't stop. And I remember, because there's a side of me that I truly don't want to come in contact with.
You're like, you stay over there.
Because I am afraid of that. And in high school,
that's the part. I'm afraid of it.
And when I was in high school, I had a moment where I saw black and I could see myself like choking this person and killing her. And that is not something that I want to deal with. I like to think of fluffies and rainbows and unicorns
okay, but if everything is energy. Right?
This is true.
Yeah. And then, especially, and I want you to think about this, especially at a time where you don't necessarily know you don't know about matching energy. I think that sometimes your ego, playing into your ego is a means of survival. So if somebody is trying to harm you, and like seriously trying to harm you, like that, that's why I said muscle memory is good. I need to be able to click back into that blackout moment. I need to go. Somebody's trying to harm my child. I ask no questions. I have nothing. There's nothing. We're not having this conversation. What's about to happen is
you're about to die.
It's it. Like there's nothing. So I think that
when it comes to my kids, that's different. Yeah.
There's something about that survival instinct, and I think that where danger clicks in, there's something that. But sometimes the energy can be so overwhelming that you, especially if you don't know how to control your energy, that you just go into matching the energy. Like I could be fun, having a great day, and all of a sudden, you walk into a store and somebody's cursing somebody out, and then or somebody's being rude, and all of a sudden, you feel yourself like you're in a bad mood, and now I'm all in this and this stuff. What?
Yeah. And I think now that I'm older and I understand that everything is energy, I look at things different.
And also, I'll tell you what's even more. Having gone through some of these dark nights of the soul, especially in this journey, it's so much easier for me to see trauma and pain in people when they're acting out like that. So that stops me from responding.
That too, yes,
me,
that too.
When it's just me, it stops me because I'm like, I can see. And and I'm a reader, so I'm like, I can see what's happening. I see that you don't even know, like, so and that'll stop me. Like, I'm just gonna go over here. But if my child is anywhere near when something is happening,
that's different. Like those are maternal instincts. I feel like you can't fuck with the maternal instincts. But
I can see pain in people. I know.
Yeah, me too.
This is just what you're doing.
Yeah, and I've seen people kind of and it's like, oh wow, like you must be really hurting. You are really hurting. Yes. And it's like you have this understanding and this compassion. It's like, yeah, let me tone this down a little bit. All right, so.
Well, think about it. When you're on your spiritual journey.
Yep.
Okay, let's get into that. When you're on your spiritual journey, oh my goodness, and you are in your community, and you are moving spiritually in a place that is completely opposite, or actually completely against your community, your family.
Yeah.
That's a rough one, because people feel the need to that's conflict. I'm like that starts war. Like,
no, literally. It can be a conflict. I'm thankful that.
And if you really think about that, when I really broke that down, like why does this hurt so much for people when someone's in a different religion, or they and I'm air quoting, abandon the church, or you know what I mean? People take that so personally, because anything that is tied to how you identify yourself so if I am a Jehovah's Witness, and this is how I identify myself. When you meet somebody who's a Jehovah's Witness, they tell you, I'm a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah.
So that is their identity. And then someone comes over and is like, someone like me is like, okay, well, good for you. And this, this is what I believe. They will take it so personally, like I'm attacking them.
Like, how dare you not be on the same page? Right.
So you can't. How do you get upset with people who are on their own internal? How I identify myself, how I see who I am. I'm not telling you
Yeah.
That you need to be like this. I'm just telling you, but this is where I am.
Well, I think those people are also in a different space, and they don't.
Well, Jehovah's Witnesses. But I'm just giving an example of when you go opposite. I told you, even with my parents.
But they don't understand too, because my parents. Well, I should say my mom. She didn't understand. I mean, I grew up in a Christian household, but then my parents had conflict. Now that was a conflict over religion. They had a conflict over religion because my father was like, nope. The girls don't need to go to church. And my mother was like, yep, they need to go. This is how I was raised. This is how I believe it. And every single Sunday, there might have been some Sundays where there wasn't, but for most Sundays, there was a conflict. You can see that they don't want to go. They're crying. No, they're going to go. So I saw that. But anyway.
But think about this too. I just want to say this. If you really think about how when, as a parent, of course, our parents are doing what they believe is the best. And like she said, this is how I was raised. This is like, everybody needs to know God. My mother says that all the time, which I agree with. It's just the doorway that I'm going through and what I believe God to be is a little different. But your kids are crying. You're going to go to church. You're making them hate it. Like, you're really setting it up. So it's like, as soon as I have the opportunity not to have to do this, I'm not going to. So you're not fostering a relationship with them for them to know God.
And I don't think she took the time to actually think.
Because that's how they were. Right. That's how our parents were raised. Like, no, I told you, I would have to, it would be a sleepover. My mother would come pick me up on the way to church. Make sure you pack your church clothes. But they said we don't have to be picked up. And I would have to go to church. I hated that.
Yeah.
Like, hated just.
So there was something, I don't know if you saw the video that I posted.
What?
About it was like the church edition of the Up dance or the TikTok Up.
You spot that pastor?
It was a woman dancing, but it was to the Up, like Cardi B's Up. And I said, if you know, like church people. And so many people were like DMing me like, oh my goodness, this was us on Sundays. Like people would, then we kind of started talking. People would do laps around the church. I remember this one woman, we'd be watching her. She would jump on the 1, 2, 3, 4. And she would shout on the 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay, first of all, I'm about to throw this in. You are not about to count down these beats, Miss Christie.
But, I mean.
Jump on the 1, 2, 3, 4 and shout on the 5, 6, 7, 8. Night, night.
We had to find entertainment. That wasn't necessarily what we wanted. But anyway, going back, I'm sorry, I'm getting off. But that was a conflict for my parents. And we grew up, like, I felt like I grew up kind of feeling like, okay, the church is a show. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. On time, every single time. And I'll go and visit churches, and it's just like, oh, this is an entire performance.
Wait a minute, stop. Because when I was a grown up and I started going back to church, now I'm like, okay, because you get back to the point, you're like, I want a connection with God, and this is the only way that I know how to do it. And that honestly started, and I was going to church every Sunday. But
tell me you're a lapper.
No.
Did you do the lap?
You know me. I'm.
She's gonna do a victory lap. I'm sorry. Let me stop.
My biggest. I would have conversations with people I know who were, really into religion. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't get past the fact that I feel like I'm watching a show. And I couldn't get past. It's like but I would shame myself. I'd be like, "What's wrong with you? Like, why? You know what I mean?"
But a lot of people like that.
This person is trying to, connect to God, and you over here thinking like, "This is some bullshit." But I mean, I eventually got to where I am today, and I believe that God is in us. And don't even get, how y'all have heard me talk about what I think about God, and y'all know I believe in the Creator and the Source, and I believe it is within all of us. But I would tell you, it took me a while to get there because what I did was I connected church to God. Yeah. So when I'm looking at church like this is some bullshit, it made me think like, okay, so what is this God thing? This don't even make no damn. Right. So my journey was it was.
You started from scratch then.
I had to I'm like this doesn't make any sense to me because I didn't know that this whole time if you want to connect with God, sit your ass down and talk to God.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, and it's funny because I told you that I went through the period where I was Buddhist. And, as Buddhist, it's like, oh, well, you're supposed to be happy. So, tying into dealing with conflict during my Buddhist time, if there was a conflict, I'd just be like, okay. Because as Buddhists, we're supposed to be happy and, all right, powers that be, well, whatever. So I was just, I don't know. Maybe that's become a bad habit.
So what I started doing when I was going through that, like, what I don't get this. This is not adding up for me. So then I started looking at all the different religions. So, I have books on damn near everything. And so I just wanted to learn. But that actually helped me, Christy, because I was like, wait a minute, hold on. I see some consistencies here.
Wait, what helped you?
Like, looking into Judaism.
And that's good, because a lot of people don't do that.
Buddhism. And I'm like, okay, then I started seeing all the consistencies here. I'm like, okay, I get it.
Here we go.
So this religion thing is really a business. But when you get down to the principles, the pure principles of, they are all saying the same damn thing.
Yeah.
So let me, and then I go to what I know. We talked about this last week, what you know and what you don't know.
Yeah.
What I know is that all of these things are the same. Let me click on to that. There's a creator. There is an entity, whatever you call them, that created all of this. And depending on what religion you look at, there's different names. I'm like, okay, I can get with that. Now let's talk about this a little bit more. Then, oh wait, if we all come from that, that means we all have it in it. Just like your parent, your DNA.
Yep.
You're going to have your parents because you all came from that. So if everything on this motherfucking earth came from that one thing, wait, we are really the same. And then I'm like, oh, well, let me get into this a little bit more. Then why do we do this? And why do we do this? And then it's like, oh, that's what this free will thing is. Oh, that's what awareness is. So that actually helped me. But it took me again. But it was just a roundabout way to get there.
But see, I mean, I commend you because a lot of people don't do that. They're just like, well, this is what it is. And this is what my mom told me I need to believe. And so this is what I believe. Instead of asking.
You have that internal tug.
Right. Like I've always questioned things. I've always questioned, well, why? Well, why? I guess I was that child. Well, why? Why? Why?
No, I used to tell my parents, I'm like, can you make that make sense to me? Because I really, I don't, it doesn't, like,
I say
put
that
this,
now.
like, no, and I still say it.
I say
like,
that.
Put it to, it's not making sense. But when you were dealing, back to the conflict, when you're on your spiritual journey and where you are in your journey is in conflict with, whether your family is or your spouse or your friends, is that a conflict that you feel like you need to get into? Seriously. Because basically now we're having a disagreement about what I believe about God or what I believe it to be or how I speak to God. Or
so I had a discussion with my cousin.
That's a hard one.
I had a discussion with my cousin because she was like, well, I don't understand. You're working with crystals now. I don't understand. What do you mean, like, you see spirituals? I know. What do you mean, what do you mean you see ghosts? Or what do you mean you hear, so you talk to grandma? I don't understand. Like, I don't understand. And we had this conversation, and we were kind of going back and forth. And I was like, look, what you believe is what you believe, and what I believe is what I believe. I'm not going to force you. What you believe, I respect that. I respect you. All right. And it was just like, I don't understand why there is that.
Well, so this is where I think a lot of people deal, where it's difficult for
people.
It's
like religion becomes so emotional.
Well, because it's, again, anything that is tied to what you believe
your identity
is going to go there.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes it's difficult for people to get to the point where they're like, hey, look, what you believe is what you believe and what I believe is what I believe, especially when it's people that you care about and they're looking at you like you're crazy or like, oh, you're different, or, especially when you grow up heavy in a church and, it's a part of your communities. Like, you fellowship with these people all the time. It's like, Wednesday Bible study, Savior's Day, whatever, all these different things. So then, now when you're in a different place and you're just like, I just need to step back. And it's not, people feel like you're stepping away from them because you're stepping away from how I identify. So you're trying to tell me something's wrong with me. So then that causes conflict. It's like, no, nothing's wrong with me. You're the one who's changing and acting stupid and working with crystals and meditating. And what is this energy healing stuff? I'm like, oh, and girl, don't even get me started when people especially with very religious people, and you're like, oh, I do readings. Like, oh, so you one of them, what are, like fortune tellers, and you are, no, I'm not, I talk to spirit, baby. Like, you know what I mean?
I was there.
But so it makes it.
I didn't understand though.
Right. But sometimes it's not necessarily a conflict. So I know a lot of our listeners are going through their spiritual journey, and a lot of them are dealing with exactly this. Mm-hmm. So what do you tell people when they are going through, their family is conflicted about
what's wrong,
what's going on with them, and they want to feel empowered to go through their journey? So this is what I would tell people. I would tell you, like, sometimes saying nothing is saving you from a lot of heartache.
Oh, I don't say a whole bunch.
Because when you are going through this stuff, and you know, it's like you're going through this stuff, and especially when you're trying to figure it out. So when you're trying to figure it out, it's like, let me figure this out because I don't have anything to say now. And sometimes, and I'm not saying telling people to necessarily hide what it is they're going through, but it's almost like when you first get in a relationship with somebody, you're like, wait, hold on, let's see how this thing works out before before we go changing our relationship status on Facebook.
Before it becomes a thing.
Before it becomes a thing, let me feel this out. So sometimes, and because it's such a personal and internal thing, allow it to be that personal and internal thing for you before and then when you feel strong enough, if somebody wants to have a conflict for you, this is where when you get strong enough, you're like, okay, I hear you. Oh, I'm the devil. Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry that's how you see me. I still love you, and I see the God in you. That fucks somebody up. Like, oh, wait a minute, hold on, what? Yeah, I mean, sorry, I just choose, this is how I see life. I see the God in you. And the fact that you see the devil in me is actually fascinating because they're one and the same. But okay, whatever. Have a nice day. And you don't feel the need
and they'd be like, wait, what just happened?
Wait, what? Shame! For shame! So I don't think, because it will cause conflicts in your life. And sometimes every conflict is not worth your energy or time. And especially when you are trying to grow yourself. We all evolve.
This is true. And I will say that, you know, my mother, who is 30 years older than me, I feel like she's coming to a place where she's a little bit more open to certain things. Because before it was like, oh, you guys are shacking up. I don't want to hear it. Oh, this is how things are. You know, I don't want to hear it. But so when she was like, oh, I see you working with crystals. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like, what do you do?
Oh,
and it wasn't
for her to even
ask. And it wasn't coming from,
that was terrible.
Right.
She's saying like, okay, tell me about this. I love that.
Right.
Now see,
because she wanted to understand before.
And see, and that's where that's the difference between taking something like your spirituality and how you connect with God from making it a conflict where it's like, let me seek understanding. And I feel like I don't care what religion you are, when somebody is seeking to understand, because like, you know, like, let me just seek to understand and trying to tell you how terrible you are.
Right.
That's different. That's how this goes from, I have to hide this from my family and friends and I'm afraid to just try to understand, you know, this is where I am. And
that's a great...
But that doesn't mean I think that what you're doing is bad or wrong, or it's just, this is where I am.
And in dealing with conflict, I really think that's a good skill to have, is to try to gain understanding from where the other person is coming from, instead of just automatically assuming that they're against you.
Absolutely. So, you want to get into this?
It's God.
It is, no. But
internal conflict. Yes. Yeah.
Think about that. Especially when you're going through your journey, you guys.
It's hard.
I think internal conflict
I think it's harder.
Yes.
It's harder.
It's harder.
Because this is, you know, these are things this is within you, issues that you're dealing with in yourself and that you're telling yourself, but then you're also opening yourself up to realize that you're not those things. Mm-hmm. But because you're telling yourself you're those things, you are those things. So it's like...
I mean, think about it. It's literally a struggle inside your mind.
It is.
And especially
and you
when
feel
you're
crazy.
Dealing... Oh, cool. Just think about it. I mean...
It's like they're coming to get me today. Today's the day.
Today's the day. Okay. I'm a medium and straight jacket.
Right.
Can mine have a little, I like a little color in mine.
Right.
But I can definitely say that my journey, the conflict was definitely more internal than it was external. Because I didn't have a problem not saying anything, so I'm not about to argue with you about what I'm going through. But that internal conflict, because again, even when, in the church, I was having internal conflict.
Yeah.
So as I'm moving forward, it's like, okay, now you feel like you're leaving a part of yourself behind, and that's not necessarily it. It's like, no, I'm evolving all of me. I'm not necessarily abandoning a piece of me, because then when you look at it like that, you feel like, I can't. How do I? And here's the thing. This is where the real internal conflicts. Once you are aware of something and you try to go back.
Oh, yeah, no.
Afraid,
no.
That would tear you. You can't
Because once you know,
something.
yeah, because once you know.
You can't unsee
once
something.
Once you know, you know.
And so what happens is when people do that, they start to try to numb themselves. And they do things to try to numb themselves. And so when you that internal conflict now leads to people harming themselves, cutting yourselves, heavy into drugs and alcohol, and because I feel like with certain things, I think people can do whatever they want to indulge in. I honestly believe that the difference between an addict and a person who does, drugs or drinks or whatever is the reason that you're doing it. If you're doing, and this is why I used to tell myself all the time, because it runs, addiction had run in my family. I've had family members die from drug overdoses. So I was always afraid of that. So even if I'm like sad or going, like if I'm in a breakup, I'm not about to be over here just drinking myself to death, or I'm not about to be like, okay, I'm about to go get high, because my intention for it is for me to numb something.
Yeah.
Whereas I look at that as like, it's celebration, it's fun, it's exaltation, it's all of these things, not let me numb myself.
I mean, I've had those moments where I'm like, man, this has been a day. Give me a glass of wine.
Okay, I think that's different. Because I honestly do. I think there's a difference between like, whew, I can't wait to get home. Take this bottle and let me get my bottle of red wine. I think that's definitely different from, I don't want to feel my feelings.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I guess I would feel like I just...
It's like this, that's a decompress,
relax, yeah.
A release.
It was
as
more
opposed to, I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to be
Now,
this.
I was like that in my first marriage.
That's different.
I was like that in my first marriage.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was...
It's like, how do I make this go away? Okay, oh shit, I gotta go deal with this fuck-face motherfucker. Sorry.
Let me chug a lug.
No, I'm gonna work on my cursing. But, I have to go deal with this, so let me go get myself and make myself a different person so I can deal with it. I think that's different. So then now it's like, oh shit, that worked. I don't even remember the conversation because I was drunk as hell. So now, that's different. And then now you've taught yourself a new way to cope with conflict. Let me numb it so I don't even feel it. I'm saying, I think that's the difference. Yeah. There's a whole difference from let me relax and have me a good time and get this day off of me, as opposed to let me completely numb myself so I don't feel anything that's going on. Like, oh crap, that worked.
Yeah. So let's talk about when people have a conflict with themselves and then try and bring you along for the ride.
Wait, so I just let me tell y'all something. I ain't going. I do not consent.
I'm like, no, thank you.
I ain't going.
So there was this one woman, I came in contact with her. Her energy was off, but we were, we had an appointment, and I was like, are you sure you want to do this? And she's like, yes, and I was just like, okay. And then she kind of said, in the middle of our meeting, she said, well, I hope this isn't brushing off on you. I was like, girl, your energy is your energy. That's not mine.
That had nothing to do with me.
Right. That's not mine. That's you.
But you know what? Empaths, if you're an empath. Yeah. Like, we are definitely some empaths. I had to learn how to shield myself from taking in other people's energy. But so this when people are having conflict with themselves, and I'm just telling Christy an example of this. Somebody, two ways I've seen this play out. Somebody will be in a competition with you, and you don't even know they're in a competition with you. And then, so they'll come up, and they're competing with you, and I'm not competing with you. You know what I mean? And
I've had that.
And you're like, what? Where is all of this coming from? You're like, oh, I didn't know we were in a competition. Now, the old me would be like, oh, we in a competition? Baby, I'm a fucking champion. Watch this. That's the old me. Like, oh,
watch my dust.
Why didn't you tell me, sis?
Well, see, and there was a situation, I guess it was competition. And I didn't know that there was competition, but I found out because she texted the wrong person and happened to text me the conversation about me.
Oh, Jesus. Christy, are you serious?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. And I remember it's just like, oh, well, she has support and she has this and, she's able to do that.
Baby.
And I was like,
girl, when people try to, when people see you shining and they see you happy and because now they're in a competition with you, they have to make an excuse as to why, in their brain, because they're in a competition, you're not in a competition.
I was like, are you serious?
Make sense as to why you're doing better than me. But I would say this, and the other thing is, when people are having an internal conflict with themselves about you. And so they're having these conversations with them. I've had this happen several times. It just happened yesterday with my ex. We cool, but he's thinking I'm on nerves. He called me. He said, I was like, wait a minute, hold on. I feel like I just got brought into a middle of a conversation
right,
that
like,
you
what
were
is
having.
going on?
Like, what just happened? Like, what are you talking about? And then I'm like, okay, you know what? Love you. I don't know what's going on. I realize
this is not me. This is you.
This is a conversation that you need to have with yourself.
Right.
Don't bring me in the middle of you going back and forth in your head, and then all of a sudden, like you drop the bomb, and I'm supposed to swim in the water with you. Like, no, baby, I'm not in that pool. I was over here chilling
in my corner of
tranquility and happiness. So, and sometimes though, when people do that to you, it's so easy for you to get into it. Yeah. You don't even know what you're having a conflict about. So be careful of stuff like that when people try to bring you in. And I can't tell you how many times and ways
I'd be like, happens. Wait, I don't understand. I don't.
Listen, we're on a whole nother subject, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, what? Huh? What? Wait.
What happened?
What? Oh, me, like, but wait, I don't understand what happened. Like, and then now you got me. Now my silly butt is going down a rabbit hole with you, trying to understand, I'm like, I see that there's something that right. you are dealing with, and when you are ready to catch me up and you want to have this conversation with me, I'm here for it. But what you're not about to do is bring me in the middle of your internal conversation and expect me to jump in and then get mad at me that I don't know what you're talking about. Right. Oh, no. Well, you can be mad if you want to, but I'm just not engaging.
And see, and I've actually gone down the rabbit hole feeling those old emotions that, we worked hard just dealing with that shit. This. And then feeling those old feelings again. I'm like, wait. I don't like that.
Wait,
like, no, I don't like this.
That was literally me last night. It's like all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, are we arguing? Wait.
What's going on?
We have nothing to argue. You know what? Okay. And like this, seriously, like, I love you. I swear, I love you. You my motherfucker. Okay, we cool. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not arguing with you because this is some old shit. We have moved beyond and past it. There's some things that you feel like we need that are still unresolved.
Or you thought he moved. He didn't move past it.
Well, that's what I said. If there are some things that we need to touch on that are unresolved, let's do that. But you're not going to do it like this to me. I'm over here in my corner of peace and tranquility, so sleepy.
Riding the free rainbows.
I'm riding the rainbow of love. Get on my ride. There's plenty of room on the ride of love over here. But I'm telling you, like, So that's sometimes that's hard because I started going like, wait, that's not what. Then I was like, wait, hold on.
You're not doing that to me. You're not today. You almost had me too.
You almost had me because you were saying stuff and you go into like defend yourself.
And isn't it funny? But isn't it funny how people know how to kind of get you back in? It's like, wait, I haven't done this in years. What? You almost got me, trickster.
Swiper, no, swipey.
Not today.
I had to
remember that commercial back. With the dollar, and he was like, almost got it.
And you up there like chasing, like, wait a minute, I have a bunch of dollars over here. What am I doing? I'm tripping. Okay. Yeah, I'm talking about all.
But see, I know, and I think the reason why that has changed is because when you take time out to like really get to know yourself and understand yourself,
you feel your triggers,
right? And then you start to understand like the habits that you had in the past, and then when you start feeling those patterns come up again, it's like, wait, we don't do that anymore.
We don't do that.
Yeah, like what?
We're good on
No, not today. Not
So,
today.
I like, so this is what I started saying to people when they try to get me in there. I do not consent.
I do not consent.
I do not consent.
Because again, everything is energy. You don't have to take it.
Like I'm at home about to get in the bed. I'm talking about like
the things I'm about to do to this bed.
And you know how when you change your sheets,
oof, and you can smell like you roll over just a little move, and you can smell the the fashions, the softener.
My sheets and my texture. And I mean, and I'm looking at my bed. It's late. I'm tired. I have been up all freaking day. I didn't sleep that well the night before. And now I'm like, I cannot wait to get in this bed. And it's like, wait, are you No, I do not consent.
So you actually told him? You verbally said, I don't
No,
consent?
I literally say I do not consent. Now, because see, that's what you always say. No, you're not about to do.
Almost.
That's a good one. Night, night. Love you. Call me tomorrow. So when you want to have a conversation, okay? I mean,
not today.
I'm not. You're not about to get me. Not about to get me.
Yeah, that is so funny. And when I had and I told you about the run-in I had with my ex, it was so different. You know, at first, like, I felt like the old feelings kind of coming up and my heart was racing. And I was like, but why? And then I was like, yeah, why?
What's going on? Ooh,
right.
That right there.
I was
Christie,
like, why?
That is one of the best ways for people to stop themselves when they're dealing with their internal conflict. They feel something come up or you're about to respond to something. Stop for 1 second and just be like, but why?
Yeah.
But why? Be like, wait, why?
Yeah.
A lot of times you can't even answer that question. If you can't answer that question.
And that was like the old pattern coming back. And I was like, oh, yeah, we don't do that. I do not consent.
I say that.
Let us talk about this. Here, come here, sir.
Yes,
let's
talk about this. But
yeah.
So when you're dealing with conflict, I think I love Christie this asking the why part, because I'm telling you that has stopped a lot of response to stuff because you're like, but what do we? No, I'm not. No. Be quick to listen and slow to respond.
Yeah.
So, and I like to say seek understanding, not to be understood.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way of looking at that. Like, don't. Let me try to understand.
Yeah. And we talked about that. Understanding the other person's point of view.
Like, no, you're gonna get my point. It's like that's not how you can really deal with a conflict.
Right.
And honestly, if you're going to have a conflict, like, let's set some ground rules. Like, look, we're each going to have. So then we're on the same page, and I think that it helps set the stage. And I'll tell you this, saying like, look, no matter what happens out of this conversation, I still love you, or we're still friends. Or we're still. That's how I want to end this conversation. What you want?
And I think
then
that's
if somebody says like, okay, you're right.
We're done. I don't never want to talk to you again.
Sometimes you don't even know how to end it.
Yeah.
So
but I will
let
say,
me tell you what the ending is before we get into this.
But I will say that
we're still cool. So now let's go.
I agree. And I was about to forget it, but I got it.
Yay!
But I will say that conflict will also show you people's true motive. You know, you'll either know like, okay, so they were either a real friend or they were on some bullshit.
Or pain. People are in pain.
That's true. A lot of people are in pain.
I honestly think a lot of reason that I don't have as much conflict or I don't even allow it is because I see it. I see it because I have been there 100 million, gajillion, billion times. So I understand, like, sometimes people's response is not necessary. It's just, sometimes people respond in such a harsh way and in a way that will cause conflict. And it's not because they want to hurt you. It's just they want to get the hurt off of them. I don't know how to get this off of me. So let me say something and now I can react to your hurt instead of me being hurt.
Yeah, a lot of people will do the transference thing. And it's like, no, that's your problem.
See,
that's
now,
not mine.
Now,
I do not consent.
I do not consent. You will not transfer your energy over here.
Not today! Oh, you almost got me.
He did it again. You're so funny.
Oh, you're so slick.
New show, I don't want the show anymore.
But it's funny, and it's like when I had the discussion with my ex-husband, I honestly kind of had the energy like, all right, okay, this is dumb. Like,
what are we talking about?
And I told him, I was like, the way that it looks from the outside looking in, like, I'm just gonna let you know. Because
I could be wrong here.
Because I already told you, I shared that I don't trust you. I don't trust you. I don't trust you. I don't trust you
further than nothing.
And I'm like, you know what? But I'm gonna let you know. Looking from the outside in, it looks like it looks like you're shady.
Just so
like you're on some bullshit. Just so you know, people will show you. I think conflicts will show people where they stand.
That's actually a good way to say something to somebody instead of accusing them of being that way. Be like, look, hey, my perception of what I'm seeing over here, it looks like to me. And honestly, what that does is that sets the stage for people to say, especially if they're not trying to. So if you say, it looks like to me that you on some bullshit, like you're trying to get over on me, that's what I'm seeing. So talk to me, as opposed to saying you on some bullshit, because then what goes into them defending that they're not on some bullshit, which is exactly what his dumb ass did. Trying to, and then now you're basically just telling on yourself. But if you're saying like it looks to me like always,
if you are quick to listen, if you are quick to listen and slow to respond, people will always tell you their true motive. Mm-hmm. Just sit back and wait. You don't always, everything doesn't, things don't always require a reaction.
Yes, Christy, come on. Because people will tell on themselves. But when you put it to them like, hey, this is what my interpretation of what's going on here, that gives people an opportunity to be like, okay, well, that's not what I'm trying to do. And oftentimes, I've done that several times. People's like, okay, that gives them an opportunity like, okay, well, that's not my intention. Mm-hmm. So let's clear that up.
Right.
As opposed to accusing somebody, now they're defending and supposed to saying, I want you to understand where I'm coming from. So that's really a good way when you're in the heat of something like, it's looking like, I don't know.
I don't know a whole bunch.
The energy I'm feeling is this.
Doesn't really quite feel honest.
When you love somebody, you give them that opportunity, you care about somebody. Yeah. I want you to prove that I'm not seeing it right. Please. I'm begging you.
Yeah.
And
my father's like, you're too nice. You're too nice. And I think, it also goes back to...
Please prove me wrong. Please. I don't want to believe this about you because I love you. Please tell me you're
I do give people the benefit of the doubt. And I will say, like, when I was dealing with my inner shit, a lot of people say you're just too nice. And I'm just like, well, this is how I am. Like, I don't know how else I'm supposed to be different.
No.
And at one point I was like, oh, I just need to be a bitch all the time.
First of all, that wasn't even a bitch face. How? I'm going to be a bitch. That's not
so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be a bitch all the time. And then I was just like, that's not me. Like, that's just
feel good. And now you're betraying yourself.
Right. Because I'm not living in my truth.
But this is when we're talking about choices and choices. So
everything is a choice.
If there is a situation, back to the conflict, you guys, and we're wrapping this up. If there is a, you always have a choice of who you're around, what situations, how you respond. You remember, you're always in the seat of power when it comes to you.
Always.
And your reactions and what you say and what you do, who you're around and who you allow in your life. So if you feel like there's something about this person or this situation when I'm here, I feel like I have to betray myself to be comfortable in here. Guess what you could do?
I learned that the hard way.
Walk away.
Yeah.
Don't come back over there. It's not whatever it is because that's for you. So then now you're like, oh, it makes you see things a little different. Mm-hmm. It's like, wait a minute, I had the power the whole time. Like, so I'm literally was sitting up here dealing with this and I don't.
You don't have to.
Like, I for real don't.
Because I'm telling you, so in one of my relationships, we had a conflict. And he said something like, well, you don't have to be here. And when he said that,
you're like,
because I was already like starting to kind of open up and see things a little bit differently. And then when he said, well, you don't have to be here, I was like,
right. At first that sting doesn't. You're like, what? Then you're like,
and I told him I was so excited about it, which I think got him upset because I was excited. I was like, you know what? You're right.
Oh my God, why didn't I think of this before?
And I was like, I said, I don't know what happened, but something clicked.
It clicks, for real.
And wow, that is such an empowering statement.
Like,
I don't.
And so oftentimes people are like, but then what am I going to do? See, this is where you have to make a decision. Is my peace and my sanity
right? Oh my gosh,
worth more than whatever it is?
Everything.
You guys, I'm telling you, once you get something, I would tell you this. Once you get some, I have never defended anything so much in my life besides my peace.
And my sanity.
When you get there, you're like,
Oh, I love my little bubble.
It's like the air up here is nice.
Yes.
Why didn't you guys
You don't have to wait in line.
This is wonderful. I love it. Defend my peace.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, which is why I've started over. Like, I don't have a problem starting over because sis has started over
as
several
many times as you need to. You talking.
I'm the queen of the bounce back.
And that's baby. Sis is resilient.
Very resilient.
I'm like, and it's not like, oh, I'm so strong. It's just that if you're still standing, if you are still here, that means that your bounce back is 100%.
Yep.
So you're still here. Like, starting over, don't be and actually this journey, because I feel like I'm starting over, especially when in a relationship. It's just like, okay, I'm starting. It's fun. Yeah. Actually, it's like an adventure.
But you're changing your perspective too. I think if you thought of it as being scary, like when I was starting over again, I was like, oh, it's going to be scary. But then when I changed my perception, like, actually, and I think you helped me see this. You're like, Christy, you're essentially starting with a blank canvas. And I was like,
you can make it whatever you want.
I can.
And
it's actually pretty cool.
It is.
It is pretty cool.
You know I'm here. You know how I feel about that. I'm all about that. And then when you and that's another way that and it also helps people on their journey and get to know themselves. When you step away and you start over from scratch, you start realizing how many things, people, and decisions that you made in your life based on what somebody else told you or believed you to be. So when you start over from, like, literally a clean whiteboard, just think of like the whiteboard in your life, and you erase all that stuff off of there. You like get you a new pack of dry erasers. And you're like, okay, let's start. It's so fun. You're like, wait, and I get to
create the life that I want. I'm like, really? Like, I do.
Like, I can.
I had no idea, and people are just like, Christy, I don't know what it is that you're doing, but you, you look so happy.
I'm making all my decisions. I'm lighter. And then that also helps you to hold yourself accountable. So then when something happens, you're like, oh, I didn't like how this worked out. Instead of being like, they made me or this person did that to me, you're like, wait a minute, hold on. Okay, I see. I made a decision to do this. Oh, I see that didn't work out well. Okay, cool. We don't do that anymore.
But I will
say, as opposed to being a victim.
But I will say that if I didn't deal with conflict, I wouldn't be here. Like understanding that the situation or the relationship that I was in was not beneficial to me. We had conflict. But had I not dealt with the conflict instead of pretending it didn't exist, I would not be here.
I agree.
And that's huge.
And for me, especially with the second one, with dealing with the conflict, when I say for the longest time, I'm like, I'm not, because it was like, I don't want to walk around the house in eggshells. If we get in an argument, it's going to be the whole thing and blah, blah. And then it just got to the point where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And it was the scariest thing ever, but I didn't. Yeah. But this one, I really knew I was going to be okay. Once it's like, okay, deal with this. And then it's like, okay, now you got to deal with your shit. And when I started dealing with my own internal conflict, I started realizing that the decisions that I was making and even the relationship was because I hadn't dealt with my own stuff.
And then the world around you starts to change.
It changes. It flips immediately. And remember, we talked about this. Relationships are a mirror of you and where you are in your life. And so, but once you deal with that external conflict and you start getting into your internal conflict, you start realizing, like, oh, this is what I was attracted. Oh, baby, down. Like, this is what I was attracted.
Oh, you almost got me again. But now I know better.
Like, Mia, for real, this is okay. I get it now. So now, it's okay. It's different. It's totally different.
And then going back to the tip, like how we talked about being quick to listen and slow to respond. If you are in a position where you cannot communicate respectfully, take a break. Like, everything does not require your immediate response. And it's okay. I mean, I've been in situations where it's like, I need to get back to you.
Give me a second.
Otherwise, I'm going to say some shit that I'm going to not feel good about. So I just need a moment.
Even people who are in relationships, you have a conflict within a relationship. Every relationship, just because you have a conflict doesn't mean you have to be done with that person. Right. But finding a way to respect yourself and the person that you are with, especially when you love and you want the relationship, is very important. And so I think one of the best things when I was in marriage counseling, like, look, before it blows up, take a break. You know how you like, you know what?
Now I meditate.
go to their separate
Right.
corners. Oh yeah, now it's
Now I
easier
meditate because
but-
then I'm like, okay, before it becomes a conflict, let me understand first. Like, is it even worth me bringing it up? Because I've had those moments too with the current peekaboo boo.
Peekaboo Bay.
Where, you know, I was like, well, do I bring this up? Because if I bring it up, I could potentially cause it to be a conflict. But I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to meditate on this first.
Don't create a problem where one doesn't exist, girl.
Right. And so I'm like, let me meditate on this first. And when I meditated, I'm like, well, Christy, why? There was that why. Well, why? And going deeper in that why. And then gaining a better understanding. It's like, that's not worth it.
That's not even worth the... And so, here's the thing. Now, if we were in a relationship and somebody say, why you bring up stuff that's not a problem? Now I feel like you're, you know, now you starting stuff with me. And
right.
But when you get to that place on your own where you're like, is it worth the conversation? Is this really even a conflict? And then when you get a little bit deeper with yourself, you're like, wait a minute, hold on. I'm triggered about something. What's going on?
And Peekaboo Bay wants to know everything. Well, if it doesn't feel right, tell me about it. Or if I'm doing something wrong, tell me about it. But I'm like, but sometimes it's not a matter.
It's not about you.
Sometimes it's not you doing something wrong. It's just how maybe it might have triggered something in me, or there's something I need to deal with. So not everything.
Give me a minute to figure out because, and again, when it's worth it to you, when the relationship is worth it to you, it's worth it. You are worth the energy and the work to put into yourself. To be like, just hold on, let me go over here. Okay, why am I? Okay, I get it because I'm triggered because this and this. Okay, all right. This. Sorry, you know what? This wasn't even about you. I worked it out.
Yeah,
and it's not
because most of the time, all the time, it's not even him. It's just stuff like previous dust.
Ooh, yes.
You know?
Yes.
Like we clean up a room and we think that the room is fully clean.
I look at, that's so funny because I look at it like shattered pieces. Like if you broke a glass.
Right.
You know
sometimes that one piece.
Yes.
It's like, shit, I thought
that's on my
It's
you
like,
drop the glass and you clean it all up. And then
I thought I picked up
there's
everything.
little pieces of it someplace around. And then one time you accidentally step on that one piece and now you sent off. You're like, why? And you're like, wait a minute, hold on. What is this about? Oh, I didn't get up this piece of glass from that.
Yep.
This little piece. But address that within yourself before you try to go be in conflict with somebody.
And I think I've come to that position through going through my journey. Because before I've been like, nigga, what?
What? Huh?
I'd be like,
no, seriously. It's so funny because people, they say that like, oh man, you just so, it's like or they'll be like, they either think you're so peaceful and like you're not mad about anything, or they just like, you just don't give a shit about anything. It's like, no, it's not that I don't get, it's just that I choose what deserves my energy. If I'm arguing with you, that means I'm giving you something. I'm sharing energy with you.
And here I am going on your level.
Yes.
Do you know how hard I've worked to get past that?
I'm not.
Oh, we're doing it again. You're wheeling me in.
You sneaky snook.
Right. People are sneaky, especially if they know your triggers. And what's funny is once you take that trigger button away and they realize they can't trigger you anymore, it drives them crazy.
Well, that's your internal conflict. And that's their internal conflict. You're not.
It's like the thing that they used to push, right?
Else's internal conflict.
Yeah. It's like, no, you're not. I'm not going on the ride. I don't consent.
I do. No, I say that out loud.
I'm gonna start saying that.
I do not consent.
Christy, here's the speeding ticket. I do not consent. I don't.
Wait,
Christy, your bill at Target's $200. I do not consent.
I told my mom. She was talking about Corona. You know, my parents are, they're older, so of course, they're all about the COVID vaccine and all this stuff. And I told my mom, I said, Mom, I told this Corona thing, I do not consent. You're not touching me. I'm over this. And so my mom was just like, oh my goodness. So she's, but Mia, I'm like, Mom, I just told you.
I do not consent.
I was like, what? You know what? How about give me the opportunity to prove you how much I don't consent and how much I know I'm in control of my energy and what I allow in my space.
And a lot of people don't understand that.
So the other day, my mother went and got the vaccine, and I was like, Mommy, how do you feel? Because, people were having some side effects. And, of course, I'm worried about my parents. She said, well, baby, I thought this was like you. She said, well, baby, I did what you told me to do. I said, I do not consent.
like, oh.
Like, she said, I just told my body, we do not cut. She said, so I feel fabulous. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. Okay.
Claim that power, mama.
You got it.
But see, there are a lot of people that don't understand that they actually have the power. They have that much power over their lives.
Like, I do not consent to something outside of me coming in me, period. It's just like you do not consent to somebody to sex. I do not consent to your energy.
Nope, I do not consent.
Nope, I'm cool. I'm good. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Gotta go into brunch now. Thanks. Bye.
Now I'm hungry.
I am too. All right. So I think another thing that's important, and I think we shared about this too, is as you are gaining understanding, I think that also is opening you up to the opinions and ideas outside of your own.
Yes.
Because I think that's another thing that causes conflict, is that a lot of people are so programmed to believe and conditioned to believe the way that they believe, that if it's anything outside of that belief, and we talked about that, it then becomes an issue. But I think once you are open to other ideas and opinions, it's like, oh, okay, I never thought of it that way. So just be open. All right, so what's the takeaway? I'm hungry.
Right. I was hungry. I would say, honestly, for this one, I think it's simple. I would say before you are willing to either accept conflict with someone else or start conflict with someone else, address what's going on with you first.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? And like, you know, I said at the beginning, like sometimes the elephant in the room can be sitting on my lap and I'd be like, but I don't necessarily, but address what's going on with you first.
Yeah.
Would be my takeaway for this.
So I'll say, as far as conflict doesn't have to be a bad thing. Conflict can honestly, again, for me, I look at conflict as a means to find resolve. So I look at it as a positive thing. Of course, in the moment, it may not feel good, but I think it's a good thing, because it shows you where you are, it shows you where other people are, and it also shows you whether or not you are on the same page with those people.
Facts. Facts.
Ooh, what's today's temple work?
So this one is actually going to be quite simple. I think that you don't even have to put your journals out this time, guys. I think that what I want you to think, just moving forward in your life, when you feel like someone trying to bring your energy to a space that you're not necessarily, just ask yourself the question. What did Christie just tell us?
Why?
Why? Just start asking before you respond. Just stop. And then also, when you're on your journey, you guys, and you understand, and you start to forgive yourself. And this is actually part of the message too, so I'll just go ahead and do it before you do the crystal, because so when you're on a journey, and you're learning to know yourself, it's so important that when you take that time, just that space, just that minute, to say, how is this necessarily going to affect me?
Yeah.
And, why am I here? And what am I going to get out of this? So before you guys start snapping off on people, or you allow people to take you to that place that you do not want to go to, just pause for a minute, because honestly, everybody is not worth your energy. You guys got to understand, when you get on your journey and you have learned to forgive yourself, that gives you so much empathy and compassion for people. When you see people who are hurting and the way that hurt comes out, you start to see it more.
You start to see it more.
So you back up a little bit, like, okay, wait a minute. I see what's going on here. But when you really get good, you start understanding, I see what's going on, and I'm not taking on your internal conflict. I'm not taking this on. I do not consent. But,
that's
so
big.
Start the amount of conflicts and opportunities you have for conflict decrease tremendously when you forgive yourself. Because you don't have any, because I'm telling you, there is something so freaking powerful about forgiving yourself that allows you to forgive other people. I've said this so much because it's so, I see it in myself. Like,
You're right.
It's amazing to me. I'm
You're
like,
right.
I know for a fact that I would have been so angry. It's just like, I know that you're hurting, and I know that you're confused, and I know, and you're trying to figure out how to get it off of you. And I see that, so I'm not about to, dig into your turmoil, and bring myself into it. Yeah. So you guys, forgive yourself and love yourself, but most importantly, be okay with dealing with your stuff.
Yes. And I will say, going back to like really understanding and seeing people's pain, the way that I've come to be able to see people's pain is through understanding my pain.
Mm-hmm.
Because had I not done like my shit, then I don't think I would have been aware.
Oh, absolutely.
Or conscious, like, oh wow, you're really hurting.
Absolutely. And I think as spiritual and energy workers, spiritualists and energy workers, I think that's one of the differences between like the healing that we do, and not better or worse.
Yeah.
The healing that we do, as opposed to someone on the necessarily like all clinical, because that's all external, and there is something different about being able to, when you have healed and worked on yourself, because a lot of the energy workers and spiritual healers that I know that are like us, it's because they were healing. Like, I got here off of trying to heal myself.
Yep.
And then when you start opening, it's like, oh, this is what I'm here for, and you start to see your journey open up, and you start to see how things start making sense. But it started from me trying to do me. Like me trying, like what's going on?
It all starts with you.
It all starts.
Everything.
It does. It all starts with you, and then that's how I got to this place. But it started with me, as opposed to. So I'm just so much more compassionate about it, just because I when I say understand and relate, that's coming from a for real spiritual place, because I do understand and relate.
Because we know exactly how it feels when you don't deal with your shit.
Yes.
When you just allow that shit to pile up over the years, and it's like you really are hurting. You just the level of compassion is
different.
So different.
Yes. Okay, so let us our crystal.
Yes. I don't know why I have to lift my head up. Just yes.
Because it is.
I feel like it just.
I feel like when it
yes.
That's from our favorite.
It's from Tony
Baker. We laugh.
So this week's featured crystal is blue lace agate, which is good for communication, clarity, and confidence. The element is water. It's great for the throat chakra.
Did you see? I
did.
I'm like,
you're like,
this is perfect.
So blue lace agate is beneficial to those who have a hard time making themselves heard by others or who wish to become more articulate in their speech. It also helps a person find the words to share their highest truth with others, and it assists one in building the confidence necessary to stand up and speak in all situations, as well as situations in which angry words must be avoided to allow for clear understanding. We're talking about conflict here, so blue lace agate is good for that. Also, it opens and clears the throat chakra in a slow, steady manner. And the stone teaches us that our words create our reality, and we talk about that too. Like, you deal with the outside, you will change you deal with the inside, it will change on the outside. So deal with the inside of yourself, it will change your external world.
Yeah.
But it also creates, it shows us that our words create our reality, and then it can also be a reflection of our highest self. And then it can also help you identify negative speech patterns and habits to shift your inner dialogue to be more positive and uplifting. So those people who need to affirm themselves in a more positive light, and I've had clients, so if my clients are listening, you know if I've talked to you about this. But if your dialogue to yourself is not positive and uplifting, you might want to consider getting the blue lace agate. Mm-hmm. And so the affirmation I have is, I communicate with truth and love.
Oh, I love that. I kind of already got into our message for today. Mm-hmm. So let's see. I want to. I think it was time to shut this down for today. Yes. How long we been on here, Christy?
Girl, we have been on here 1 hour and 32 minutes.
Sometimes it just goes
yeah. No, honestly, we can sit and talk about stuff forever. And sometimes before the shows, we're talking about stuff.
Yes,
before.
We're like, wait, what just happened? We wanted to give a shout out to a king.
Oh, yes. So, this podcast, Two Queens and Crystal Things.
We do focus on the ladies a lot, but I told y'all we love kings.
We do love the kings. We love the kings. We love them. But I just wanted to shout out this young king. He reached out to us, 22 years old. He wanted to say how much he really enjoyed our podcast. He's been listening to it since January. And, he's not necessarily like, he doesn't necessarily know what topics he wants to like hear from, but he says when he does go to the podcast, he'll just choose an episode, and it always seems to speak to him directly. And so I just wanted to give him a shout out. Thank you so much for sending us a message and letting us know that you listen to us. We don't hear
from the fellas often.
We don't.
We hear from the ladies quite a bit. So we want to give us, a special opportunity. I like to celebrate the kings.
Yeah, and Des does a good job at letting us know. Like, he shared that he was listening to the episode, and he was like, another good episode. Did you see that? Des supports us.
Yes.
He's a good one.
Wow. So, Mr. Nathaniel, I'm going to send this out to you, making sure that you have light, peace, love, and soul in your life, and especially today. So thank you for listening.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys. What are we talking about next week?
I don't know. Shoot. Well, this is going to be for next week. We're recording this a little earlier.
Okay, well, we'll let y'all know.
Our next episode. We'll let you guys know what the next episode is going to be. We're going to figure that one out.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We love you.
Bye.
Bye.